Hey PCOC kids and families, I wanted to do a quick tutorial on how to draw the Bible Lands map. This map is so helpful to understanding the context of Scripture. And so we are, as part of our PCOC Kids curriculum, learning how to hand draw this map. And as we add to our knowledge, as we move through Scripture, we're going to add to this very, very basic map. Already it's been so beneficial as we've started to learn the Old Testament stories. So I wanted to just make a quick video so that you can follow along and get really good at drawing this map, okay? So we start off with just 5 very simple cues. So we start off drawing a boat. All right, so the boat is going to be the Mediterranean Sea. Now remember, not all the places that we call certain places certain things now, but those are not the same names that they had them in ancient times in a lot of cases. The Mediterranean Sea was called the Great Sea in Scripture and in ancient history, okay? So that's the Great Sea and the Mediterranean Sea. So that's number 1. You draw a boat. Next to the boat, you're going to draw a bobber with some fishing line and then a little piece of bait dangling down there. Now next, that's going to be right next to your boat. Now this area here is going to be the Sea of Galilee, the Jordan River, and the Dead Sea, okay? This area right here is where Jesus' ministry is going to take place. And where the Israelites are going to come for the Promised Land. This whole area right here is going to be the Promised Land, okay? So we're going to keep going. Great Sea, Mediterranean Sea, Sea of Galilee, Jordan River, Dead Sea. Okay, first you draw a boat, then you draw a bobber with some fishing line and some bait. Next we're going to come here just underneath our boat and we are going to draw the Red Sea. Now the Red Sea we say is a peace sign. Okay, so we're going to do kind of this 2 little hooked thing. Alright, this is what you call a blob map. It's not exactly perfect. And as you do this more, it'll get better and more proportional. This is just a basic idea of things. But this is called the Red Sea, and that's going to factor into our stories in the Old Testament for sure. All right, so after the Red Sea, or the peace sign here, we're going to move over here to the corner of our page, and we're going to do the Persian Gulf. This is the Persian Gulf, or it's also the slug. So we draw the boat, the bobber, fishing line, and bait. We draw the peace sign, and we draw the slug with some antenna. Now our antennae are going to be kind of funky looking. They're going to come off like here. One of them is going to go like this. It's going to be kind of bent at the top. And this one up here is going to join with this antenna, and then it's going to break off on its own. Now this is the Euphrates River and the Tigris River, okay? And this is important rivers to the ancient civilization, especially in the Old Testament. Now right here, we're going to draw some triangles that are going to be the mountains, all right? These are the mountains of Ararat. And you know that one of the best things that happened at the mountains of Ararat is where Noah landed his boat, okay? These are some very basic things to get you started on your map of the Old Testament Bible lands. Now we can add so much to this as we gain understanding of our Bible stories. What's really important with our kiddos, if you're teaching this to your kids, is to sit down and give them an actual map that they can compare these shapes with. This is so helpful to know how to hand draw, but they also need to be able to understand what the real shapes look like so that they can find those on a real map as well. All right, when we want to add to this, we can add a couple of really interesting things. The Garden of Eden started at the headwaters of 5 rivers according to the Scripture. Now we don't have 5 rivers anymore, but we do have 2 of the rivers, which is the Euphrates and the Tigris. So it's kind of a guess to say that the Garden of Eden was kind of right here where the Tigris and the Euphrates meet. Up here, of course, is where Noah landed his boat. We don't know for sure, but the Tower of Babel was in the area of Shinar. We don't know for sure where that was because Scripture and ancient history combined refer to different areas. So a good guess, although we don't know for sure, is that the Tower of Babel was built at about where the city of Babylon eventually is going to be placed, which would make sense. Tower of Babylon, or Tower of Babel, Babylon. They don't know for sure, but it's a good guess. So maybe the Tower of Babel is here. We know that Abraham started here. He moved up here with his family, and then Abraham eventually settled over here, which later would become the Promised Land. The nation of Israel grew here with Jacob and the 12 tribes. And then Joseph was sold into slavery, and he was brought over here to Egypt. Now this little 5 fingers with a little bit of a tail is the Nile Delta in the river, the Nile River. We put over here some pyramids to represent the pyramids of Giza, which is our 7 wonders of the ancient world. It's also such a key representation of the country of Egypt. So when we add this, it reminds our kids that this is Egypt. Egypt is in Africa. So again, it kind of helps give them a context. Okay, so over here is where Abraham and the nation of Israel began. When Joseph was sold into slavery, he was brought over here to Egypt. Now when he went, after his brothers came and discovered who he was, Joseph sent a group to go get his family, and he brought them down to this area right here. This is called Goshen. Goshen is where the city, the country, and the nation of Israel grew and grew and grew until it was time for them to leave. After the plagues, they left Goshen and came, again, we're not 100% sure, but a good guess is that they came down here between the forks and the Red Sea, that they might have crossed right here because Mount Sinai is just on the other side of the Red Sea. So I like to do a mountain with some smoke coming off of it, okay? Mount Sinai. Now over here is the Arabian Desert, and this is the wilderness that the Israelites, we go like this. This is how we're going to teach our kids. They wandered around there for a while, and eventually they made it back to the Promised Land, which is where Abraham and the nation of Israel began. And then we can talk about Jericho. We can talk about Bethlehem, which is where Jesus was born. We can talk about Jerusalem, which is right about there. So this is such a valuable piece of information and something that you can learn as a family to really expand your understanding. The better you know geography, the better you can understand the context of not only ancient history, but about how that fits into the Bible. So, hopefully that was helpful. I would love to see your maps if you have them to show me.